Coming up on Arirang News. An investigation is underway into the deadly fire that broke out at a battery manufacturing plant in Hwasong, Gyeonggi-do Province yesterday, which killed at least 23 people. Marking 74th year since the outbreak of the Korean War, President Yoon criticized the pact recently signed by North Korea and Russia, calling it a regressive step in history. North Korea launched another round of trash-carrying balloons to the south last night. In response, the South Korean military says it's ready to implement loudspeaker broadcasts. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Ji-young. We start with the deadly fire that broke out at a battery manufacturing facility yesterday, killing at least 23 people. The 23 have now all been identified, with 18 being foreign nationals and 5 being Koreans. The last to be identified was a Korean national in his 40s. Our Peun-ji leads us off.
Family members of victims arrived at a lithium battery factory in Hwasong, south of Seoul, where a massive fire broke out after multiple batteries exploded on Monday. The deadly fire killed at least 23 people, mostly foreign workers, including 17 Chinese nationals and 1 person from Laos, alongside 5 Koreans. Only the bodies of 2 Koreans have been identified. One was a man in his 50s, a father of 3 children, who lived apart from his family to work at the factory. The other was identified through fingerprinting on Tuesday morning as originally a Chinese national in his 40s, who became a naturalized Korean. Meanwhile, 8 more people were injured, with 2 reportedly in serious condition. The fire broke out at the battery plant run by a company called Arirang on Monday morning. The blaze began at 10:30 a.m. and was completely extinguished around 22 hours later at about 9 a.m. on Tuesday. A joint investigation is underway by the police and fire authorities to determine the exact cause of the fire.
A joint investigation involving 40 personnel from 9 agencies, including the police, the National Forensic Service, and the Ministry of Employment and Labor, will be conducted to pinpoint the exact location and cause of the fire.
According to the fire authorities, in 2019, the company was found to be storing 23 times the permitted amount of lithium. Additionally, another factory building run by the company caught fire on Saturday, just 2 days before the deadly blaze. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, the company apologized for Monday's tragic fire, saying it had resumed operations following the first fire after its production team confirmed there would be no further issues. Peun-ji, Arirang News.
Now, the tragic fire at a battery factory is raising questions about safety at similar facilities and what should be done to prevent any future tragedies. Our Choi Soo-hyung talked to some experts.
Experts all agree that the fire, which broke out at the lithium battery factory in Hwasong, was an unprecedented incident, something the country has never experienced before.
This lithium battery fire differs from past fires because the batteries themselves seem to have generated heat for some reason, reaching nearly 1,000 degrees Celsius and causing nearly flammable materials to also catch fire and spread the blaze.
Given the high number of foreign casualties, the government will strengthen fire safety education for such workers and develop fire extinguishing systems to prevent future incidents.
The Interior Ministry will manage the whole process to develop future preventive measures with 7 other ministries, including the Labor and Science ministries. The government will strengthen fire safety education for foreigners and develop fire extinguishing agents for materials such as lithium batteries to prevent future incidents.
To produce and use lithium batteries safely, Professor Moon said that technology must be developed to prevent them from reaching extreme temperatures close to 1,000 degrees Celsius because of the characteristics of the raw material lithium.
If the separator that distinguishes between the cathode and anode which are the sources of lithium ions, is robust, heat is not generated. However, for some reason, this separator had some problems that led to explosive heat generation. Research is needed to ensure thorough functionality of this separator, and a system for this must be established.
Another expert pointed out institutional shortcomings in the classification of hazardous materials.
Lithium is classified as hazardous under substance management laws, but lithium batteries are excluded due to their minimal lithium content. Further discussion is needed regarding whether products using hazardous materials should also be classified as hazardous.
He added that the simultaneous loading of 35,000 lithium batteries was the cause of a chain reaction of explosions.
If there is excessive damage accumulation, firefighting becomes challenging and causes further damage. New regulations may be needed to restrict or require separate storage areas for large quantities of these materials to prevent such incidents.
Experts said that this fire is a strong lesson for the introduction of further safety measures, as it was a new type of fire in a specialized field. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Marking the 74th year since North Korea triggered war with South Korea by invading across the 38th parallel, President Yoon Suk-yeol promised to defend South Korea's freedom and democracy, as he also warned the North of an overwhelming response to what he called regressive behaviors. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has the details.
South Korea will respond overwhelmingly and decisively to provocations by North Korea as the, quote, backwards regime continues to oppose developments for global peace and security. That's according to President Yoon Suk-yeol as he spoke on the 74th anniversary of the start of the Korean War, when the North Communist forces invaded the South in 1950 with backing from the Soviet Union and China. In light of North Korea sending balloons carrying waste across the border and signing a pact with Russia last week to strengthen their military cooperation, Yoon blasted such developments as regressive behaviour that counters progress in the course of human history. He said the South Korean military will maintain a solid readiness posture to ensure Pyongyang does not dare challenge the South in any situation, vowing a decisive and overwhelming response to any provocations from the North. The South Korean leader also criticised how Pyongyang's ruling regime maintained its security through the oppression of its citizens and their human rights. Yoon further pledged to safeguard liberal democracy, freedom and peace based on a stronger South Korea-US alliance and solidarity with like-minded countries.
강력한 힘과 철통 같은 안보 태세야말로 나라와 국민을 지키고 이 땅에 진정한 평화를 이룩하는 길입니다. 우리가 더 강해지고 하나로 똘똘 뭉치면 자유와 번영의 통일 대한민국도 결코 먼 미래만은 아닐 것입니다.
He highlighted the sacrifices made by South Korean, US and United Nations troops to push back against the North's invasion that at one point seized 90% of the South's territory.
3년간 이어진 전쟁으로 우리 국군 14만 명과 미군을 비롯한 유엔군 4만 명이 전사했고 사망, 학살, 납치, 실종된 우리 국민은 100만 명에 달했습니다. 북한 정권이 적화 통일의 야욕에 사로잡혀 일으킨 돌이킬 수 없는 참극입니다.
However, Yoon said South Korea and the UN forces did not give up and fought fiercely until the day the armistice agreement was signed in 1953. Then from the ruins of war, the South battled abject poverty, expanding per capita income from $67 in the 1960s to near $40,000 today.
피로써 자유 대한민국을 지킨 호국 영령들의 뜻을 이어받아 눈부신 산업화의 기적을 이루어냈습니다. 비약적인 경제 성장을 디딤돌로 해서 모범적인 자유민주주의 국가를 건설했습니다.
Yoon noted that while North Korea continues down its backwards path, South Korea as an emerging global pivotal state is contributing to the international community in the realms of economy, diplomacy, security and culture. Later in the day, the president visited the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt, docked at Busan Naval Base. He was greeted there by 300 South Korean and US service personnel. Yoon noted that the visit of the aircraft carrier symbolizes Washington's firm security commitment to Seoul, as Pyongyang escalates its nuclear and missile capabilities. The USS Theodore Roosevelt will set sail on Wednesday to take part in Freedom Edge, the first trilateral multi-domain military exercise between South Korea, the US and Japan. President Yoon said the liberal democratic values shared by the three nations will serve as another powerful deterrent against the North. Seoul, Arirang News.
On this day, the nation commemorates the sacrifice of those who fought for the freedom of the South during the Korean War and their crucial role in shaping the country into what it is today. Our Yoon went out to see how they're remembered. The Korean War is sometimes referred to as the Forgotten War, as it is often overshadowed by World War II and the Vietnam War. It broke out on June 25, 1950, when the North invaded the South. The Korean War should not be forgotten, nor should the sacrifices of its veterans from South Korea and the UN forces from over 20 countries.
영웅들은 전부 영웅들이야. 이분들의 이름을 영원히 기억해줘야 돼.
After more than 70 years, the Korean War may seem like the distant past for many young people. Yet it remains important to hold events such as writing letters of gratitude to veterans. Here at the War Memorial of Korea, a special event is held where people can write letters to the veterans whose service in the war enabled South Korea to become the nation it is today.
We thought that it would be important and interesting for us to learn more about Korea's history, also to teach the kids a little bit more about war.
Curator Kim Jung-yup emphasizes why it's crucial not to forget the Korean War.
This conflict has profoundly shaped Korea's modern history over the past 70 years, so it plays an essential role in comprehending Korean society today.
He added that the Korean War is currently in a temporary pause, suggesting that we must not forget is more appropriate than we must remember. After the armistice on July 27, 1953, not all prisoners of war were able to return home, with tens of thousands of POWs unable to leave the North. According to the Ministry of National Defense, since 1994, 80 of those prisoners of war have managed to escape the North and return to the South. Today, 9 of those 80 are still alive, and a special exhibition remembers and honors the lives of those prisoners of war. This exhibition marks the first public unveiling in 13 years of findings from the project conducted by the Ministry of National Defense, vividly portraying the experiences of South Korean prisoners of war in North Korea.
Actually, my grandfather was a soldier who participated in this war. I have never been here, but I thought it would be a very good place to visit for foreigners and Korean people to remember the soldiers and like UN military services. We can thank for them.
And at the Peace Plaza, a special honor guard ceremony was held to commemorate the military's role and contributions to the nation. As well as special events, the War Memorial of Korea's permanent exhibitions ensure that those who fought in the Korean War are not forgotten. Yoon, Arirang News. South Korea's army has conducted live fire drills involving its domestically developed Chunmoo multiple rocket launch systems. The training was held on Tuesday in Boryong, Chungcheongnam-do province, to mark the 74 years since the Korean War. It aimed to enhance the Chunmoo's precision strike capabilities and deterrence against evolving North Korean threats. 7 Chunmoo units launched 48 long-range guided rockets to hit targets 55 kilometers away. Some 190 troops took part in the training. The Chunmoo is a key military weapon designed to counter the North's long-range artillery threats. It can fire guided missiles with a maximum range of 80 kilometers. North Korea resumed sending hundreds of trash balloons into the south last night, some of which have landed in the capital area. The South Korean military says it's ready for loudspeaker broadcast again in response. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil has more.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said as of 9 a.m. Tuesday, around 350 balloons that were launched from the north on Monday night had been identified and that about 100 of them had landed in South Korean territory. The military said most of them landed in Seoul and the northern regions of Gyeonggi-do province. The trash being carried by the balloons is mostly paper and no harmful substances have been found. The military added that it is ready to begin propaganda broadcasts aimed at North Korea, depending on the regime's actions.
Our military is ready to implement a loudspeaker broadcast against the North immediately. We will be strategic and flexible with the situation and will begin when the instruction is given.
North Korea already sent trash-carrying balloons on 4 occasions between May 28th and June 10th. South Korea's Ministry of Unification provided some information about those balloons.
The majority of the trash was cut-off waste paper, plastic and clothing scraps that seem to have been put together for the purpose of sending, rather than regular household trash. There were also parasites found in the soil included in the trash.
The ministry added that the parasites may have come from human waste, while adding that there was no risk of contamination or infection. While most were carrying planned trash made for balloons, the ministry said there was also trash that may indicate the poor economic condition in the north, such as old, worn-out socks, gloves, and T-shirts. Monday's balloon launch is believed to be in retaliation for the 300,000 leaflets sent by a North Korean defector organization last Thursday. Fighters for a Free North Korea, a civic group, sent dollar bills, leaflets, and USBs containing South Korean dramas and songs. North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong has previously warned of sending more trash balloons regarding the leaflets sent by North Korean defector organization in the south. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Russia says its recent defense agreement with North Korea does not target Seoul and has asked for South Korea's understanding. According to Sputnik News on Tuesday local time, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko said the deal is a warning against countries that are planning or hoping to solve issues on the Korean Peninsula and nearby regions through military means. He added that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's visit to Russia will take place when all necessary conditions are met, but did not give details on the exact date. His remarks come amid strained relations between Seoul and Moscow after Putin signed a defense pact with Kim last week that says they'll provide military assistance to each other if one faces armed aggression. The finance chiefs of South Korea and Japan met in Seoul on Tuesday and vowed to take steps to defend their currencies. South Korea's Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok and his Japanese counterpart Suzuki Shinichi said in a joint statement that they addressed concerns regarding the sharp declines in both countries' currencies and agreed to take appropriate measures together. In a win for South Korea, the two sides welcomed Seoul's recent efforts to attract foreign investment, including reforms made to add the nation's securities onto the FTSE World Government Bond Index. The Japanese yen recently fell to its weakest against the dollar since 1990, hovering near 160 yen against the greenback. The Korean won is down nearly 7% against the dollar this year and slid towards the key 1,401 level this week. In other news, South Korea returns to a U.S. list of top-tier countries in the combat against human trafficking. Lee Seung-jae explains.
The U.S. State Department on Monday released its 2024 Trafficking in Persons report. The annual report breaks down the list of countries that meet standards for the elimination of human trafficking across 3 tiers, with South Korea returning to the highest tier, Tier 1 category, alongside the U.S., Britain, Taiwan, France, and Singapore. Countries and territories whose governments fully meet the Trafficking Victims Protections Act's minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking are included in Tier 1. South Korea was placed into Tier 2 in the 2022 report for the first time in 20 years, but returned to the top tier after 2 years. According to the report, South Korea was placed in the top tier as the government of the Republic of Korea fully meets the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking, citing key achievements by the government in doing so. The report said South Korea had increased trafficking investigations, prosecuted and convicted more people guilty of trafficking, implemented the Victim Identification Index, and identified 55 trafficking victims during the report's one-year period, among others. However, the report also said that the South Korean government did not proactively investigate labor trafficking cases, and its Victim Identification Index did not contain sufficient measures to screen for labor trafficking. It also mentioned other issues, including not having prosecuted a case involving human trafficking in the distant water fishing sector. Still, Seoul's foreign ministry on Tuesday praised the return to the top-tier list, stressing that it's the result of efforts that the government has made to faithfully respond to trafficking issues and protect victims in line with relevant domestic laws. Meanwhile, North Korea has been placed into the lowest Tier 3 list for the 22nd straight year. Also included in the list are China, Russia, and Iran. The annual U.S. report measures efforts to eliminate trafficking in 188 countries and territories, with this reporting period from April 1st last year through March 31st. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
An annual cultural forum this year placed much emphasis on enhancing broader communication of Korea's flavors, language, and styles. An Sung-jin covers the event.
In the coming years, how will South Korea be seen by the rest of the world? With Hallyu, or the Korean wave, spreading around the globe more and more, the cultural elements of it are becoming more widely known, including food.
Mandu and kimbap are becoming more familiar to the world, and more people are being exposed to Korean dramas and movies. As Korean content, food and beauty are becoming disseminated globally, as well as the Korean lifestyle, it has become crucial to properly share our culture for people to understand it.
Under the theme New Korea, the Korea Image Communication Institute this week held its 15th annual Culture Communication Forum. Only this year, it included an ideas contest, as well as AI-made images that best represent Korea.
I think South Korea will be a country where new cultures overseas audition, meaning that I'm sure Korean culture will play a leading role in the world.
15 final contestants out of the 256 projects submitted were showcased on the day, and 6 were selected through a vote. First place for the most well-represented idea of Korea awards went to a calligrapher who incorporated the Korean writing system, Hangul, into their idea, suggesting the creation of a landmark statue to represent the beauty of the letters. Meanwhile, an AI image created by a university student that illustrated the contrast yet harmony of the Korean traditional clothing hanbok with modern elements won first place in the AI image category. The forum also provided a platform to explore the future of Korean representation with cultural leaders around the world.
There are more and more young French that are fascinated by K-culture. They are learning Korean language. They are looking for any opportunity to discover the country, be it for studies or for tourism. Our French community here in Korea is growing by the day.
With more of the success of Korean culture being witnessed over the past decade, the CICI aims to provide a blueprint that can further promote various components of the country. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
The whole country is mostly sunny today, and there's a break from the severe summer heat. The clear skies won't last long, though, with rain starting on Jeju Island tomorrow. It will extend to the southern parts of the country on Thursday. Jeju Island is expected to receive up to 150 millimeters of heavy rain by Thursday. This rainy weather will continue for a long time in the southern parts of the country and Jeju Island. Extra caution is necessary. With the inflow of high waves into the east coast by tomorrow, strong winds of around 20 meters per second will blow today. Please refrain from going near the coastlines. Tomorrow morning, Seoul, Gwangju, and Daegu will start off at 19 degrees Celsius. It will move up to 29 degrees in Daejeon, Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju. The rainy season in the central region will begin this weekend, 3 days later than last year. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Well, that is all for this newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back shortly at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Good night.